the United States of America came closer to being destroyed because of something that began 20 years ago that has now been stopped. And in the euphoria of Trump's victory and in the euphoria of the Prime Minister of Canada stepping down for the same reason that woke is falling apart, we understand that there can be this feeling, this warm, fuzzy feeling, but you cannot lose your outrage. You cannot lose. And today, if you didn't understand how clearly the evil that was done to this nation, done to your children, done to your future and this great nation, then we're not ready to utilize the next 4 years, because we cannot let this virus reappear. We can't let this evil reanimate itself. We can't forget what's really happened and why it's wrong. And it starts with the hoax of January 6th, because it was a lie. The insurrection charge was a lie. Liz Cheney's actions, which you'll see, were absolutely obscene. What happened with Biden using the FBI and the Department of Justice and lawfare against Trump, it's not over. The recent actions of Donald Trump, this last moment, the Democrats and Biden especially remind me of that verse in Luke 9 when a demon started screaming louder than ever because it knew it was about to be cast out. This is the rage that we're watching. The decision to ban exploration offshore, the decision to give billions more to the Ukraine, the decision to free. And when I began to read the crimes of some of those that were on death row, that he commuted their death sentences, it was horrifying. And I thought to myself, this is not being done in the name of justice or love or truth or even any kind of progressive agenda. This is just a further hatred of Donald Trump. You know, I read an article by our buddy that does late night. I don't know why his name is escaped. Greg Gutfield. He wrote an article about the media, how they tried to destroy. Their hatred for Trump was so great that they were willing to destroy the nation in order to get at him. And literally, the article's amazing. I should comment on it more, but we will. I think for now, let's begin with the first outrage. January 6th was not an insurrection. What was an insurrection? The riots in Minneapolis, Portland, the riots in Seattle. When the Black Lives Matter movement and the other rioters involved, Antifa and others, what they did cost more lives, more money, and more laws were broken than a grandmother that wandered into the Capitol building. And for us to watch the last hurrah, that Liz Cheney was given an honorable medal from the President of the United States, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at the FBI, and we're going to end up with some answers. But I think the first thing we ought to do is run the first video. Before we run it, this is hilarious. It's not. It is. Sometimes there's a video that's just funny and hilarious because it's almost like God is making a statement. This reporter was about to give the hoax again in a report a year later, and then this happened. I love it. Let's run it right now.
All right, you ready?
Yep, when you're ready.
Okay. Since the January 6th attack on the US Capitol, when supporters of Donald Trump stormed this building, trying to prevent the election victory of Joe Biden from being certified. On the anniversary. Oh my God. Oh God, Sam. Oh.
She said God twice.
She knew.
You know, I think it's hilarious that she was going to give the nation a snow job. And that's what it was going to be, was she was going to tell that same thing, that this riot was to prevent the election of Joe Biden, and what a eloquent rebuttal. What did you think of it, my friend?
I thought it was hilarious. God's definitely got a sense of humor. But, the thing about it, at first I thought it was AI or something, Mario. I was like, that can't be. But it actually is a real video. The only thing that's not real is, the music behind it, obviously. But that's a real, but that actually happened. And these are the types of things. I mean, there was a couple of times, if you remember, Mario, where like the flags fell down. I think was it Joe Biden that was speaking? But, an opportune, like right on cue that only God could have done it, over the last couple of years, where, things like that happen. And here's another one of them, I thought it was hilarious.
A human nature never ceases to fascinate me. And I'll say this quick. And I want your comment on this. This isn't on the script. It just hit me. Jesus is in the garden and they've come to arrest him. Judas Iscariot has kissed him. And one of the magistrates looks at Christ and said, "Are you the Jesus of Nazareth?" Right. And Jesus says, "I am." And when he said, "I am," the power of God knocked them all on the ground, right? That's when I'm leaving, all right? I'm going to say it's nice being a soldier. It's nice working for you, but I'm not about to arrest a man who, when he said, "I am," we all fell on the ground. Right. But you know what? They all got up and did it. And that's what the Democratic Party reminds me of. They have moments like this where a gust of snow will do what it did. And I'll give you the other example is when the attempted assassination on Trump. Comment on that, right. How they reacted to what is undeniable. I mean, it should have put the fear of God in them, but it didn't. Go ahead.
Oh, they tried everything they could to spin that and somehow blame him, and then they tried to redact and take all the, all the internet. I mean, if this was anybody on the left, it would have been, they still be talking about it today. But they tried to take it out of the news cycle within a few weeks, within a few days. I mean, even if you go on to YouTube or on some of the, social media sites, you can't even barely find it, And thank God for the new media that keeps talking about what happened, but it had to be God. And we all knew that. I really think, and Mario, you and I have talked about this a lot of times, but that was really the moment when in my spirit, I said, he's going to win this. He's going to win. Because why would God have spared his life like that? I mean, and I talked to people in the military that were sharpshooters, and they said at the range that, any sharpshooter could have gotten. Now we know that the guy is supposedly an amateur or whatever, but he was somebody who was a shooter, but they said that at that range, it wasn't that hard to hit, so, I mean, there was so many things that, it kind of reminds me too. I don't know if remember you saw the video. There was I think it was like an Iranian guy or someone in the Muslim world that got up and they said they were going to take out Israel. And you remember the guy just keeled over right there and then? Do you remember that video?
Yeah.
It's just crazy things like that. Yeah. Or, during C-19, there were people that were talking about the Fauci ouchie, and then they just killed over. I mean, I'm not, laughing about that, but it's just, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about how those things happen like that,
But it's not like we're without signs. But see, this is where the church is in trouble, is that the genuine outrage of God is not in you, and you got to get it in you. Now, we're not going to hate people. We're not supposed to. And the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Right. I get it. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. But if you, as a believer, a parent, could look at your child and discover all the things that have been going on for 20 years, mingling with George W. Bush and with Obama and the Cheneys and all the warmongering. And I believe Obama's existential hatred for the way of life in America, that all of this power and abuse, so it's suddenly leveled on Trump in such insane levels. So how insane do you think they got with Donald Trump, with lawfare and everything else? What's your opinion of that, Todd?
We've never seen anything like TDS. We've never seen anything like this level of derangement, and it's shown us a lot. It's actually really worked against them. If you think about it, Mario, the mainstream corporate media is in the tank. They're hemorrhaging jobs. A lot of these companies are going out of business. I think they're, highly subsidized because most of them wouldn't even still be in business. They're part of the Operation Mockingbird Church Commission type of media, and that media is dead. It is not dying. It is dead. the new media. In fact, just want to mention our last show, All Glory to God, got like 200,000 views. I mean, it's crazy. And that's just the ones that we can account for, because folks are looking for real information, real conversations. We saw during this presidential cycle that President Trump really understood this. He went on Joe Rogan. He went on Tucker Carlson. He went on the new media. He went on the ones that the corporate media had rejected. And there's been a changing of the guard. And this isn't good. You can't put this genie back in the bottle. This is a done deal at this point. So everything is changing. But to your point, I consider righteous anger. It's like we can't, it's like with Israel, if they were to play nice with terrorists, they were just going to continue to, attack them. So it's like there has to be a point where you look at it and you say, we can't play nice here, because we already know these people want our kids. They want to take away our religious liberty and freedom. They want to take away all of our rights. They basically want to make the nation a communist, a new form of communism, which is really not new at all, and just, kind of packaged differently. So it came to a point, and this is where we're still at, where the Christian had to take a stand, and we had to take a righteous stand. And now it's a moment where it's like, okay, are we going to just forget about it? President Trump comes in. What happened to all these people that committed these crimes? I mean, look at the Biden family. Look what they did with Ukraine. Look what's happened. We could just go on and on and on. Obama, Hillary Clinton. We're going to talk about Liz Cheney in a minute here. I mean, this guy gave George Soros an award. I mean, I feel like that award is like not worth anything anymore. And that's a very, high level award. I mean, one of the most, amazing awards you could get as an American citizen. I don't know. Do you want to be on the same, plane as George Soros at this point? I mean, does Trump need to come out with a whole new award now? Because I feel like that award is tarnished, and then I don't know. What do you think about that, Mario?
Here's the general speaking to the army, and he'll say this again and again and again. And it's happened throughout history. Remember what your enemy has done to you. Remember what he's done to your children. Remember what he's done to your freedom. Why? Why is that important? Because we are not finished, folks. This is not the final victory for the American way of life. This is just the beginning. Donald Trump entering the White House is step one in a long, protracted cultural war. And the body of Christ has got to have the stomach for war and the fire in its belly to finish it. And the only way they're going to keep that fire going is by understanding what monsters these people really are. Did I say that right, Todd? Did I say that right? They are monsters.
You're spot on, and I think everybody's agreeing with you. And they're demonized. Let's just be real. They're demonized, and they're how more blunt can we be? Look at everything they've tried to do. I mean, you can go down the list, whether it's try to go to war, world war. They want us in a world war where we use nuclear weapons. Does anybody want that? Is anybody watching this that wants that? I mean, why would you not want to de-escalate? Why would you not want American interests to be the top of the priority as the leader of the free world to make sure that there's that balance of power on the world stage where freedom is, who would take over the vacuum if America's off the scene? It's communist China, and that's basically where these enemies of the state, these people that have been masquerading as American politicians, but they hate us. They hate what we stand for. They hate our Constitution. So, I mean, we just need to call a spade a spade. That's exactly right. And, here's the thing. And my wife said this, and she was so spot on. She said, here's the thing is that, because I see Zuckerberg, he's kind of playing nice now and he's not going to censor. And well, that's great. I mean, I hope that's the case. But, she said, I hope that President Trump doesn't forget what these people have done. Because she says, think about it. If another liberal gets in there, he's just going to go back and be worse. And it's like, how do we trust these people that all of a sudden they want to come and meet with, Bill Gates wants to meet with Donald Trump. I don't trust that. This is the guy that's been basically trying to depopulate. I better be careful here. But bottom line is, okay, we still got to be careful on these social media sites to speak the truth. There's something wrong about that. Okay. There's something wrong about that. Yeah.
Okay, and why is it important that we uncover this? Mario, are you just spiking the ball unnecessarily? No, I'm not. What we're doing here is trying to give you a proper perspective on the resolve that must remain in our spirit about never allowing this thing to come to power ever again in America. Now that Trump is won, we need to expand in the midterm elections how many we have in the Senate, how many we have in the House of Representatives. It's insidious the way these people work. And you have to understand, too, You can't get wispy and say, oh, let's capitulate to these monsters. Let's capitulate. Let's act friendly and nice and work on some reconciliation. There is no biblical reconciliation for someone who is working ferocious evil against you. There's nothing in the Bible that tells you to sit and be a welcome mat to gratuitous evil in your life. Yes, we turn the other cheek, but we don't allow our children to be killed. Now, we're going to show you a video that says something very horrifying about the FBI. And the director of the FBI, Ray, is going to be interviewed by a congressional leader, Troy Nehls. And when he does this, you're going to find out that the FBI thought it was more important to get Trump on January 6th and get him out of power and prevent his reelection, that it was more important for them to do that than to end child pornography and to deal with fentanyl. Okay, children have been sexually assaulted because the FBI didn't take action. That's a serious charge. Well, if you move resources away from that to dealing with Trump and the January 6th insurrection, people died. People lost sons, young sons, to fentanyl overdoses because the FBI didn't do its job. And it didn't do its job because it wanted to get Trump. So the next time you think we ought to let up or be sweet or not take action, remember this interview that we're going to run right now with Troy Nehls interviewing the FBI director. Listen to it.
Sir, you mentioned 38,000 agents and support personnel in your agency. How many FBI agents and support personnel have you assigned to the January 6th investigation?
I don't know that I know the number. I know we have a lot of people working on it in multiple fields.
Fair enough, lots. Yeah. Knowing that you are dealing with some of the sickest people in our society with investigations related to child sex trafficking, have you reassigned any of these agents or personnel to investigate January 6th? Yes or no?
I don't believe we have reassigned people away from child exploitation to January 6th.
Let me just say this, Director. I find that answer disturbing because last month, Steve Friend, he testified before the Weaponization Committee. Mr. Friend was a domestic terrorism investigator for you, and he was told by one of his superiors that January 6th was, I quote, a higher priority than pursuing child pornography cases, end quote. And for those of you watching in America, understand today's FBI is more concerned about searching for and arresting Grandma and Grandpa for entering the Capitol building that day than pursuing the sick individuals in our society who prey on our children. And Mr. Ray, your priorities are flawed. But let's rehash what we know so far, all right? It's the largest investigation in FBI history, and you don't mention it in your testimony. Agents have been reassigned from child exploitation cases and so on. So now let's get into the money, Mr. Ray. How much taxpayer money has been spent on January 6th?
I don't know that I have the figure
you don't have
in my head,
fine.
but
Mr. Ray, I got an article here, December 22, 2022, 2 years after the events of January 6th, and it says the Justice Department has requested another $34 million from Congress. And number one, you shouldn't get another dime. The FBI shouldn't get another dime for this political witch hunt against the greatest president in my lifetime, Donald J. Trump.
Go ahead, Todd. What's your reaction to that video?
Well, first of all, to redirect the money, the resources, the agents that should be going after the exploitation of kids, child sex trafficking is absolutely the most disgusting thing. I can't even start. Oh, I have a daughter. Let me just tell you. Oh, my goodness. So that's number one. Number two, they dropped the ball. If you think about it, we're just on the heels of two, at least lone wolf, possibly not lone wolf terror attacks here in America. And the FBI, I mean, think about all the people that have come over the southern border in the last 4 years, unvetted military-age men. If the FBI wanted to be busy, they could be more busy than ever right now. But instead, they're focused on Trump supporters on January 6th who peacefully walked inside. And by the way, we're going to show you in just a few minutes how they were actually guided in there by possible informants. And we've known this for years. And it's still not the official story, even though it's true. There's been some people like Tucker Carlson and others that have done some excellent reporting on it. But Mario, let's get back to the kids. The fact that what that man just said, Mr. Nels, absolute, hands down, spot on. Okay. You redirected the most important resources against the children and the child sex trafficking to go after Trump supporters. That should be criminal.
Okay, so let's have a moment where we look the Democratic Party in the eye, these operatives. Let's talk about Biden, Obama, Kamala Harris. Let's talk about the leader of the FBI, the Department of Justice, the district attorney of New York City, the attorney general of New York, Fannie Willis in Georgia. Okay, I'm going to look you in the eye and say, you know you're lying. You know that you have no case against this man. And the judge in the case in New York, where he's going to sentence Trump on the 10th. And you look him in the eye and you say, you have no case, you have no validity. We've got a nation that's being invaded. How deeply do you hate Trump that you are willing to take leave of every last decent form of truth and legality in the United States in order to get a man? You hate him that bad, Obama. You hate him that bad that you're willing to sacrifice the civilization, the freedoms, the children that have died, the 300,000 from other countries that are abiding in the United States that we don't even know where they are. We have no idea the horror being done to those children. But that's worth it to get Trump. It's worth it to lie. It's worth it to do all that in order to get Trump. That, to me, is the question of the hour. And that's what you can't forget to tell yourself when you pray for America, when you pray about the future, and you ask, why are we being so adamant against the Democratic Party? Why are you still harping on this? Because this monster is still at work. And the wispy, lighthearted kind of, the halting between two opinions of Christians is going to render us vulnerable to a return of this monstrosity. If we don't understand the depth of it, we're not going to stop it in the future. Go ahead, Todd.
That's right. And you have an instinct, Mario. You've been in ministry for 50 years, because I get this question too. People say, well, why are you talking about Trump? Why don't you talk about this? Why don't you talk about that? From a high level, and you're so spot on, and I'm so glad that you lead this way, because I really appreciate it, and you've taught me in this area as well. But, there's a lot of things we could report on, sure, but from a high level in our country right now, what are we dealing with? As a pastor, as an evangelist, when I go out, I talk to people that are dealing with fentanyl addiction, all kinds of addiction, all kinds of incidents with kids that have happened. That's why we're covering this, because all these things, and I can just go down a litany of things, they all go back to policy, local level, state level, federal level, laws, curriculums, things that we've allowed as a nation. It all goes back to this, Mario. So if we don't cut the head of the snake off, and we've been given an opportune moment right now, but again, see, the big picture here is that the church has a tendency to go back to sleep, to go back, okay, Trump's in, the battle's fought. No, I mean, we have fought some of the battle, but this is only the initial stages. There's still a lot of this cancer throughout our country. I mean, they just put in how many judges? Several hundred judges, activist judges all around the country. There's so many things that we're still going to deal with. And so we have to go out there and go out, cast out, and drive out as the body of Christ. And that's why we have to be focused like a laser beam on these things, because they're all going to affect the rest of our lives and our children and our grandchildren.
And it has to be dealt with. It has to be dealt with. This is, we cannot confuse an opportunity with victory. Those are two different words. The word victory is not the same as opportunity. And the word opportunity is not the same as victory. What we have in this presidency is an opportunity to end an evil. But if we undermine that evil, if we undermine it, then we are by being soft and being afraid to face it. I'll tell you the number one problem we're facing in the church. It's horrifying for a Christian to realize the FBI became a criminal agency. It's hard. It's hard to embrace that. If you've grown up in the United States, you go, the FBI became a criminal agency? Yes, it did. And it not only became a criminal agency, it behaved in a manner that is equal to the Mexican cartels, the Colombian cartels, and China, and Russia. There is no difference in the level of depravity. It's the same level. Go ahead, Todd.
It's not the rank and file guys. They're for the most part patriots. It's the people that have been put in from this administration at the top levels. And it's all this DEI and this demonic agenda that's been pushed through, and so it's got to stop. And I'm glad to see that there is momentum now where a lot of the DEI, the companies are turning around. We're seeing this, but it needs to happen a lot more. And we, the body of Christ, we need to pray it out. We need to push it out. We need to be vocal. That same action that we took before the election, we need to be taking now, and maybe even greater. I know that, not a lot of people saying that, but maybe even greater, because now that we have, momentum and the wind is at our back, but, we can't, it's just, I think the biggest problem that we could have right now is if we go back to, okay, let's just have normal church. Let's just have, on every level, we got to be taking territory, Mario, and that includes at the governmental level. And I know there's a lot of people that say stay out of politics, but this is this isn't even politics. It's a spiritual battle at the highest of levels. It affects all of us and all of our lives, and everything is at stake, and it still is.
And to show you this, I'm going to look the audience right in the eye. How can you say that the FBI did evil? How can you say that there's proof that their actions on January 6th were targeting innocent Americans and arresting and imprisoning them without cause, holding them without cause for years? How can you say that's true and prove it? Well, let's look at the next video right now. And then I wonder who is going to be able to say that this doesn't establish it. Because look at what happens now when the congressman asked the director of the FBI the next question. Let's run that video right now.
I want to turn my attention now to this fella, this character, Mr. Ray Epps. We've all heard of him. We've heard of Mr. Ray Epps. He was number 16 on your FBI most wanted list. He was encouraging people the night prior and the day of to go into the Capitol. And Mr. Ray Epps can be seen at the first breach of Capitol grounds at approximately 12:50 p.m. Play the clip, please.
We need to go into the Capitol.
Into the Capitol.
Into the Capitol. What? We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word.
All right, noted. Okay, but one more thing.
Yeah, so can we go up there? No?
When we go in,
are we going to get arrested if we go up there?
Yeah. You don't need to get shot.
Arrest us.
There he is, breaching the line, going in at the first breach into the Capitol grounds, the restricted area. Mr. Ray, you have arrested hundreds of people related to January 6th. And there have been people arrested for breaching Capitol grounds. Cooey Griffin is an example. Rachel Genko is an example. And then we go to Mr. Brandon Strecka. Brandon was arrested for disorderly and disruptive conduct, which included yelling, I quote, "Go, go, go," as rioters tried to empty the Capitol. These three never went into the Capitol. They never assaulted anyone. So let's be honest with each other. There is very little difference between the actions of Ray Epps and Brandon Strecka that day, but yet Strecka was arrested and Epps wasn't. Epps also testified to the January 6th committee. He was back at his hotel when video evidence showed that he wasn't. He lied.
Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, well, there's a term. It's called agent provocateur. And to my in my opinion, that's what this Ray Epps man is. He was a man. I mean, you don't just go around and tell everybody, hey, we're going to the Capitol. We're going to the Capitol. You know, come on, who does that? And all it really takes is one really effective guy like that, because he knows how to find the loose cannons in the crowd. He knows how to find the folks that are probably the most vulnerable. And hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go, okay, you know. So that's literally what the man did. Now, if that's the case, and he's just a regular citizen, why, to the man's point, why would he not be arrested? Of course he would. So clearly, so that then bolsters the case that he's an agent provocateur. Okay, if he's an agent provocateur and he's not touched by the government, well, then who is he? Is he somebody that was from the government? Okay, if so, then that makes the case. I mean, if this were a fair court of law and we're in trial right now, Mario, if I was a lawyer, I feel like I can make a really strong case about Mr. Epps being a government agent that literally incited what happened on January 6th. And if that's the case, like Tucker Carlson and many people have done excellent reporting on, then where are we as the American people? We have to ask that question, because the entire narrative, as we've been told, is not correct.
So the idea of, well, let's let it go, bygones are bygones. No, no. This must be thoroughly examined. And we have got to have a stomach for war, that when Donald Trump takes the reins of the presidency of the United States, he's going to go after these guys. He's going to go after what happened. And we have got to be willing to say, it doesn't matter that Donald Trump can look like he's on a personal and vendetta of revenge. You got to skip that stupid argument and realize, yes, his family was targeted. Yes, Trump was unfairly given lawfare. But the point of this whole story is it is no longer a private vendetta. This was done to the American people. People lost their children. A grandmother from Colorado who traipsed in for a few minutes and left has been absolutely had her life destroyed by the FBI because of this zeal to get Trump. And as they said, the man who was screaming and yelling and telling everybody to go in hasn't even been arrested. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you as a balanced, sound thinker, how can we let this go? We cannot. We have got to understand that God has given us an opportunity to put in a proper Department of Defense, a true FBI director, to uncover all the evil and see to it that this never happens again, and that those people are set free. For on day one, Trump has got to pardon every single January 6th defendant. We're going to turn our attention to something else now. Liz Cheney.
Ooh.
This is a tough one for me. This is real tough. She's the darling of The View. You know, that honorable show with such intelligent women who speak so accurately about things, the Institute of Whoopi Goldberg, etc. And you think about it, she became the darling of that crowd. And she's even been given an award. And yet there are 10 lies that she told about the January 6th investigation. And we're going to deal with some of them. I hope we get to all of them, because she called it an insurrection, and that was a lie, and several things that were done. And yet she was honored. And I want to tell you, this video is real tough for me to run, but we're going to go ahead and run it right now. Here is Biden giving Liz Cheney, of all people, an award for, and here's what the narrator said as she was getting her award. She put the American people above party. She didn't even put the American people against the money in her family. She didn't put America over anything. She made America the lowest possible rug on the ladder. Why? Once again, her hatred of Donald Trump, which was so all-consuming that she was willing to lie and cheat and do everything in her power to abuse a committee of government in order to lay a false accusation on a man. This is not about Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen. This is about what she did to the American people. But brace yourself. You might need some Pepto-Bismol handy right now as they did this obscene thing. Let's roll the video right now.
Elizabeth L. Cheney for putting the American people over party.
Yeah, there she goes.
The Deep State Award. Joe Biden's trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's just
where am I?
Yep. These people are clapping for good on you. You went after Trump. Good on you. You hated a man so much. That's all it's about. Total hatred. So I want to put a scripture on the screen, and I'm not going to comment because I might get in trouble if I comment too much. Proverbs 26:1 says, "As snow in summer and rain in harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool." And they also gave it to George Soros, didn't they? They gave an award to him. I know you're burning to say something about Brother Soros. What's on your heart there?
This is a man that we know is probably one of the most corrupt, evil people on the planet. I mean, he's like central casting to like the villain in any James Bond movie or any, I mean, you can't get any worse than George Soros when you think about it. And, here's the thing about George Soros. He's going to have to stand before the God of heaven and earth. And you know what? I think his time is coming very soon. And of course, we always pray for everybody to get saved and to repent. I pray that happens, but there's a good chance it's not going to, because this man is so deep embedded in corruption and evil. And there are countries in the world that won't let this man come in because they know how evil he is. And they know he's somebody that destabilizes and funds these horrible operations all around the world. And so it's such an amazing time, Mario, because it's like their time is so short and they're trying to give all the accolades and awards to the people that have done all their dirty work. But justice is coming. Justice is coming. And I think that many of them know that and they feel that. And there's a change that's happening. And now we're in this really pivotal moment where we have to pray in Donald Trump, because the next few days are very, very important and critical. And I believe he's going to be doing a rally, Mario, like the day before he gets inaugurated. And so we just need to pray covering over him, protection over him. And as we mentioned in last week's show, it's not that we're putting President Trump on a pedestal and saying he's going to do it. But what he's doing is he's giving us an opportunity. But that's really, I feel like this is the next stage to last week's broadcast. If you didn't watch last week's broadcast, I would encourage you to watch it because it's a very important show. But to your point, Mario, is now we got to do the work. It's time to get our hands to the plow, and roll up our sleeves. And that's really where we're at right now, and not let up on the pressure and the prayer and everything that we're doing. And this has kind of been the message. I'd love to hear your comments, by the way. If you're watching right now, we read your comments. You need a prayer request or you have a comment on what we're saying. Put it in the comments because we want to know what you think. But what do you think about George Soros getting a presidential freedom medal? What do you think about Liz Cheney? Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And in case you were under a rock and didn't know what George Soros did to America, let me remind you, he used his money to put district attorneys in office. In the example of the state of Oregon, where all drugs became legal because of the lax attitude of district attorneys and judges and people that George Soros funded, people overdosed in record numbers. And ostensibly, they were promised a decrease in overdoses if they legalized all the drugs. Well, Oregon was so inundated from death from overdoses of drugs that they had to go back and remove some of the George Soros laws. You look at the city of San Francisco, where Elon Musk was talking about a well-known family that moved from the city. And this is the result of the policies of district attorneys and the values, the upside down values of what George Soros did in his influence. In San Francisco, this couple drove home to their house in the hills of San Francisco, well-to-do, and there was a corpse in their driveway, a dead body. They were horrified and tried to maneuver their way, went inside, and they called 911. And when they got 911 on the phone, they said, "We have a dead body lying in our driveway." 911 said, "Are you sure he's dead?" That was their first question. "Are you sure they're dead?" "Yes," they answered. Question number 2, "Are you in any danger?" And they said, "No." "Well, then someone's going to come by tomorrow and pick up the body."
Wow.
You know, they're going to leave a corpse overnight in a driveway in San Francisco because that's the moral, physical, political disarray that George Soros represented. And he's not only destabilized America, he's done it to other countries, as to your point, that he is now banned from going there. Why are we giving these people awards? Hatred of Trump. And here's the other part of it, and I want to comment. They failed. George Soros' plan to destroy America failed. He failed miserably. When do you give an award to a loser? You know, and that's what he was being given an award for. We want to thank you, Joe Biden is saying, for your disservice to America. And he failed. Liz Cheney was ousted from Montana by one of the biggest margins that any politician ever lost. And her home state didn't want her. She failed. But and in true wokeism, we're giving a participation trophy to people that miserably failed the United States. But what do? Okay, we're going to work our way to the final part of what we normally refer to as the firepower perspective. And for that, I want to lay the groundwork, and then I want you to comment, Todd, okay? I want to read Proverbs 26 again, another verse from there, verse 16. "Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity?" That is the question of the hour. The church has got to rise up. Trump is not a victory. He's an opportunity. And the church has got to realize it. And already we're watching the lukewarmness begin to reassert itself. However, the firepower army, you're more than enough. You're more than enough for God to use you in this hour. So what do we want to tell people right now about the Trump victory and what we do now going forward, Todd?
Yeah, well, one thing that you and I have learned over the last couple of years is there are a lot of people in this army, this, whatever you want to call it, the remnant, the firepower army. I know, Mario, you've said a few times, I don't even know we can call it a remnant. There's so many. And I think one of the problems has been, is there's been a stigma in leadership to where we can't talk about these things, or for whatever reason, we can't get into the political realm, or we can't get, we address this a little bit, but I want to get into this more because we have to, when our kids are at stake, when their future is at stake, when the state of our country is at stake, when, like you said, we need to be working right now towards the midterms, because that's what they're doing. They're going to be working to somehow usurp President Trump and try to put handcuffs on him for half of his term. And this is the most important term in recent history, maybe in all American history, because the truth of the matter is our country stands on the brink. If we think that we're not on the brink right now, he's got amazing ideas to bring back jobs, bring back manufacturing, have people invest in America, see the energy sector bolstered. I mean, we're going to see some tremendous things if his policies are truly enacted. And we need the Republican Party and those in Congress to back President Trump and to also approve all of his nominees, which it looks like they're going to do. But that is just the beginning. When Kash Patel gets into the FBI, when Pete Hegseth gets into the Department of Defense, when these folks get in there, they're going to be having a battle. And there are going to be deep state people and people that are heavily embedded in these departments that they're going to be up against. And the people of God need to be praying. We need to be active in our community, active in our state. We need to know our representatives. We need to be vocal. I think we need to be holding prayer gatherings. It just can't stop, because what we did before the election was truly historic, and it deserves, the praise of just thank you for standing, American church. We did. We came together. We prayed. We stand. But now we need to keep that going. We can't let up. And I think a lot of people are distracted, Mario. And I think we have to make sure not to get distracted on what the enemy wants us to be focused on. We got to make sure that we are in the spirit, we're in our word, and we're in prayer, and then we're people of action. I believe that's what we need to be.
I'm going to add to what you've just said that Dwight D. Eisenhower visited the death camps in the Second World War when they were liberated by General Patton's army, when they liberated the death camps in Germany. And the soldiers were told to go in and look at the horror, look at the corpses and everything else that was in there. And I'm not going to equate the Democrats to the Nazis. That's stupid. Everyone who's tried to do this kind of comparison is failed bitterly. We don't want to talk about the greatest evil of the 20th century lightly or level that on anyone. But I do want to draw one comparison, not on the level of evil, but on the enlightenment that the General Eisenhower gave to his men that day. After they'd seen the horror, a reporter walked up to him and asked him what was the point of showing the American soldiers everything that had been done in the death camps. What was the point of that? And he said these words, and listen to me very carefully. A lot of these men came to Europe not knowing what they were fighting for. But today, they found out what they're fighting against. And that was a profound statement. And what I'm hoping for is that when Donald Trump begins to take these aggressive steps, and when Kash Patel and others in the cabinet begin to do what they need to do, that we will now realize today in this show what we're against, what we're fighting against, what they were willing to do to hurt us, not Trump, us, by their actions, so that when they take direct action and it seems punitive and it seems not nice, that you will remember this is the strong medicine that we've got. Maybe today we did a little bit to help you understand what the Democratic Party has done to us and why you know now the monsters that were in it and what we're actually fighting against. But now we got to find out what we're fighting for. Mario Murillo Ministries is going to do 5 major crusades this year. Our first one is going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, March 23rd through the 26th. We'll soon be announcing all the others. I love it because for the first time, firepower is going to be involved directly in this crusade in the tent. And several have already volunteered. And you need to go to mariomurillo.org to become a volunteer for our tent crusade. And in the tent crusade, 2 of the mornings, Todd will be preaching in the tent. And I'm very excited about that. And so I'm going to tell you that it's going to be our greatest crusade. It'll be very powerful. But there's another thing we're doing. We're doing nights of miracles in key churches that are going to be stronger and greater than we've ever done before. We're going to be meeting with thousands of pastors in the United States this year to enact an era of revival. I'm not a politician. I'm a man of God. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to win souls and heal the sick, and only Christ can heal. But the healing virtue of the Lord will flow in our meetings. But we're going to do something else very amazing, and that is a full-length motion picture on March the 9th and 10th will be aired in 400 theaters across the United States. It's like doing 410 crusades at one time.
So
it's an amazing moment. And I'm only on the screen for 5 minutes. But this film, Todd, is amazing. It has taken on a life of its own. It has been given accolades even before it's been shown. And I can't take any credit for it at all. People in Hollywood that are up in the upper echelon fell in love with this film, started giving us their talents, skills, and their participation. And I finally got to see it myself here at Belmont University in Nashville, when we were allowed to use that theater because of the sight and sound and the quality. It's amazing. I can go on and on about it. But I want to play for you the trailer to our film that's going to be coming out March 9th and 10th in 400 theaters across the United States. Here it is right now.
Colorado Springs, are you ready?
The promise that this tent holds is that the presence of God is there.
I didn't want anything to do with God. I looked at the tent and went, no, this is not for me.
You could be broken on the outside. You can be broken on the inside.
I was considering assisted suicide. It was black, truly.
Miracles are like magnets. It draws people in because they say, if that happened to them, maybe it will happen to me too.
I had doubts when I would be in the worst pain. And I remember saying, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief.
This thing that's been growing inside of you is dying by the power of God right now.
One characteristic of what we call revival is that it's not the end. It's just the beginning.